Well, hello, YouTube. On today's episode of Know Your Rights, we will be covering a news story out of San Francisco, where the city will pay $700,000 to settle a lawsuit over a police beating. If you like this type of content, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel. Also, if you have a video you would like me to break down or a news story you would like me to cover, please send me an email at knowyourrightsnews@gmail.com. The link is in the description below. Also, before we get into this video, I want to take a moment and let you all know I have started a second YouTube channel. If you are a gamer or like retro video games or retro video game systems, I have started Retro Gaming Central, where I will focus on all things in the retro gaming genre. If this sounds interesting to you, please click on the link in the description below to my YouTube channel, Retro Gaming Central, and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's dive right into this news story out of the Golden State. The agreement comes after a federal judge ordered the release of body cam footage, and it comes while the officer accused of assaulting Dakari Spears defends himself in criminal court. San Francisco will pay $700,000 to settle a lawsuit after a baton-wielding police officer savagely beats Mr. Spears. In February 2020, Mr. Spears filed a federal lawsuit against the city alleging civil rights violation, false arrests, violence, carelessness, and supervisor culpability. He claims that Officer Terrence Stengel, who is facing assault and other charges, assaulted him without cause. Mr. Spears suffered a broken wrist and leg, which necessitated surgery, as well as multiple lacerations that necessitated stitches. During his recuperation, Mr. Spears was confined to a wheelchair. Mr. Stengel was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, assault with force likely to cause great bodily injury, assault under color of authority, and battery with serious bodily injury by San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin, a former public defender who has vowed to hold officers accountable for misconduct. The proposed $700,000 settlement was placed on the schedule for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors meeting on February 1st. Before the deal can be finalized, the board must approve it. Mr. Spears' lawyer, Curtis Briggs, believes that the settlement is reasonable, but stressed that the attack was traumatizing for his client and represents a larger issue inside the San Francisco Police Department. Mr. Briggs added, "The savage beating of Mr. Dakari is the tip of the iceberg as San Francisco police managers and municipal officials vigorously defend mentally unstable cops every day in courts." San Francisco City Attorney David Chu's office stressed that the city bears no responsibility for the allegations made in Mr. Spears' lawsuit. Given the inherent expense of continuing litigation, we feel the proposed settlement is an appropriate outcome, stated spokesperson Jen Quart. Neither the officers, the police department, or the city have taken any responsibility for the savage beating of Mr. Spears. Mr. Spears claims in his lawsuit that on October 6, 2019, he was consoling his fiancée on Pier 39 after she discovered her wallet was missing. According to the police report and audio from a 911 call, police officers approached the couple and began questioning Mr. Spears, who allegedly matched the description of a person who allegedly choked and dragged a woman by her neck in the vicinity. When Mr. Spears and his girlfriend asked why he was being stopped, San Francisco police officer Martinez told him to turn around slowly, but Mr. Spears did not respond. Officer Martinez made an attempt to grab a hold of Mr. Spears, but Mr. Spears resisted. Officer Terrence Stengel then approached Mr. Spears from behind and began beating him with a baton as Mr. Spears screamed, "Why are you hitting me?" According to body cam footage revealed in December 2020, Mr. Spears states, "It shows I didn't do anything." Mr. Spears further claims that officers came to see him at St. Francis Hospital 3 days later and threatened him to keep quiet about the assault and tried to intimidate him into not seeking legal counsel. The federal judge hearing the civil lawsuit ordered the city to produce the entire body cam footage from the night Mr. Spears was beaten and 3 days later when officers visited him at the hospital. Police should not be permitted to cherry pick which section of footage are made public, according to U.S. federal judge Jacqueline Scott Corley, who is now a district court judge nominee. According to the judge at the time, such cherry picking could potentially influence the jury. Mr. Stengel's counsel recently attempted to have the charges dismissed in the continuing criminal case, claiming that the DA's office concealed evidence. An investigator for the district attorney's office testified this week that she was persuaded to omit some elements from an affidavit supporting Mr. Stengel's claims. Evidence indicating a witness witnessed Mr. Spears abusing his girlfriend justified the officer's use of force, according to the officer's lawyers. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, a judge said at the hearing Thursday that the facts from a follow-up interview with the witness appears to offer no fresh important evidence that would make a difference in the case. Mr. Spears' attorney, Mr. Briggs, said that the proposed $700,000 settlement will provide some degree of justice for his client, but it will not compensate for the anguish and physical harm he endured at the hands of the police. Mr. Briggs stated Mr. Spears will never be able to entirely put this horrific and senseless attack behind him. If the public understood how widespread these beatings are in this neighborhood, they would be scared. Robert Ruca, a spokesman for the San Francisco Police Department, declined to comment on the charges that the department hasn't done enough to curb unwarranted police brutality against the residents of San Francisco. As part of a 2016 collaborative review process with the United States Justice Department, the police department achieved considerable compliance with 90% of 272 police reform recommendations. The San Francisco Police Department has yet to implement 27 recommendations, including data collecting and record keeping for use of force instances, bias training, officer punishment process reviews, and officer performance assessments. Well, I hope you liked this video, YouTube. If you did, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, YouTube, you stay safe out there.
Before we break down this footage, I want to take a moment and talk to you about We the People University. If you haven't heard about this online course, I want to let you in on a little secret. Its sole purpose is to train you to know what it takes to make sure you are not unfairly treated by the police ever again. Who better to teach you what to do when the police try to search you or your property illegally or violate any of your constitutional rights than former police officer and sheriff's deputy Abiyah Israel. Learning your basic rights is an easy process. The only thing it takes is you being willing to learn. Do you want to learn all the trick questions that police ask during a traffic stop? Do you want to take back control from the police? If so, please click on the link in the description below. You will learn the secret of taking control of your constitutional rights back from the tyrants who abuse the law.